my own money. I'm not using the lobbyists. I'm not using donors. I don't care. I'm really rich. I'll show you that in a second. And by the way, I'm not even saying that in a brag. That's the kind of mindset, that's the kind of thinking you need for this country. So, because we got to make the country rich.
Donald Trump calling for a richer America during his presidential announcement last month. But what is it really going to take for Americans to regain their prosperity? For more on this, we bring in Arthur Brooks, president of the American Enterprise Institute and author of the new book, The Conservative Heart, How to Build a Fairer, Happier, and More Prosperous America. Welcome to Newsmax Prime, Arthur.
Thank you, Joe. Great being with you.
Glad to have you here. Capitalism has been the greatest tool to draw people out of poverty, but conservatives who champion this system, like Donald Trump, are viewed as callous and uninterested in helping out the poor people. Why is that so? And we know that the facts show differently.
Well, part of the reason is that we don't talk about the facts enough. We don't talk about poverty enough. We talk a lot about prosperity as if it were about economic growth, it were about the stock market. We don't talk about the reason it really matters, which is to draw people out of poverty. I'm not worried about Donald Trump being rich. I'm worried about people who are poor not being poor. Yeah. And the facts are just stunning. Since you and I were kids, Joe, 2 billion people around the world have been pulled out of poverty because of capitalism, because of free trade and property rights and American-style free enterprise. It wasn't because of big government programs or socialism, let me tell you that much. Yeah. Until we start talking about that and our moral duty to help the poor, people are not going to trust us to do just that.
What's interesting about this, and I talk about this on my radio show all the time, people are confused. They think it's a zero-sum game. They think that wealth is a zero-sum game. Arthur, if you have some money, I can't have it. So you've got to give me some of yours. The truth is we can both succeed through capitalism, can't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And see, the thing that's really interesting about it is until about 400 years ago, the whole world was a zero-sum game. Joe has some means Arthur doesn't have it. That was the state of nature. Yeah. That's the way it has always been. Until we discovered through the Industrial Revolution the free enterprise system, which made it a positive sum game. Now, that's not an intuitive thing. People don't get that automatically. We have to explain it and we have to show it. And the way that we show it is with examples and stories. Stories of people who put their lives together, who built their lives up. I'm just going to guess, Joe, your parents or grandparents, they were probably immigrants from Italy, right?
Right. My grandfather, certainly, absolutely.
And, he came here. I'm going to guess he didn't come here because he said, I want to get a better system of forced income redistribution.
No, that's not why. He wanted a better life. He wanted an opportunity.
Yeah, and look at you. I mean, you're incredibly successful. That's what you can do in America over 2 or 3 generations, even less in many cases. And that's what we got to talk about. That's the hope of a better life that is our social justice mission.
But, we've got the Obamas of the world that say, let's spread the wealth around a little bit. We've got people saying we want it to be fair. We want it to be a fair attack to what's going on economically. We've got Hillary Clinton, who just made her big announcement the other day, and her economic plan is basically take it from people who have made it through their drive, desire, and ambition, give it to people who haven't made it, and somehow that's going to make everything equal. It's not really about being equal, is it? It's about having the opportunity through capitalism to use your entrepreneurship and to use your brain and your will to go and get it, right?
Yeah, sure. And, I've got this new book, The Conservative Heart. That's what we're talking about here. And if you read it, you're going to find the way that you can take on that argument and win. I'm going to show you the proof in this book that capitalism makes people richer and how you can talk about it so that people will listen. Here's a classic example. Next time, you'll see in this book, next time somebody accuses capitalists and conservatives of not caring about fairness, say, no. I believe in true fairness, right, which, by the way, is what 90% of Americans want, which should be rewarded for your hard work and personal responsibility and merit. And that's what this system does. It's truly fair so that poor people aren't stuck at the bottom.
You talk in your book about human capital. It's a term I frankly hadn't heard before. What is human capital? Why is it important?
Well, human capital, we talk about capital as in plants and equipment and all that, but the capital that really matters is our brains. And it's our initiative, it's our entrepreneurship. But our human capital is the most valuable thing that we have. The reason, the great shame that we have in our culture today is that we throw away the bottom quarter of the income distribution, people who are poor, by giving them lousy schools. We take poor kids, we have unionized bureaucratic schools, and we don't train these kids right. And the result is it's like we're burning down factories effectively. That's not just bad economics, that's bad morals.
Well, we're also disincentivizing them from going out there and doing something with that human capital. If you're getting it all, you're getting Section 8 housing, and somebody's helping with the heat bill, and you've got a bad school system, but it's free, and you're getting a free lunch or you got food stamps, why would you try harder? You've got your necessities, right?
Well, sort of. I understand that, but the problem is that I think that most poor people would much prefer to earn it if they could. In the past 7 years under the Obama economy, the biggest problem that we have is the fact that opportunities are falling away for the very poor themselves. Right. We've gone from 32 million Americans on food stamps to 48 million Americans on food stamps, while the stock market is booming. It's insane. Nobody's going to stand up for the poor and give them opportunities.
I've got to leave it there. We could talk for
we
could talk for 12 hours. We appreciate you taking the time. The name of the book again, Conservative Heart: How to Build a Fairer, Happier, and More Prosperous America. Thank you for joining us. Stay right here. Back after this.